Hello and welcome, everybody. My name is Melissa Tui, and I'm the EdTech and Adoption Specialist here at Ozobot. Today's webinar will be all about Ozobot 101, which will give you a peek into all that Ozobot has to offer. We'll start with introductions, and then we'll head into our agenda and move on from there. Again, my name is Melissa Tui. I'm the EdTech and Adoption Specialist here. I'm a former teacher. I taught kindergarten and first grade and also founded a coding, engineering, and design thinking program at a Title I school in South LA. And when I'm not at Ozobot, I am at UCLA pursuing my doctoral degree where I'm researching computer science implementation in elementary school classrooms. And I'll pass it to Diego to introduce himself.
Good afternoon. My name is Diego Covarrubias. I'm an account executive here at Ozobot, covering the state of California, Connecticut, Louisiana, Oklahoma, and West Virginia. I am a Ozobot expert and a STEAM specialist here at Ozobot that also is a technology enthusiast in general. So I'm glad to be here and show you all how it all works.
Wonderful. Thank you, Diego. We'd love to know all about you all as well in the audience. So if you want to participate, you can let us know who you are, what you teach, and what brings you to our webinar today. Just make sure to select all panelists and attendees in that to field so that everyone can see your response. What we're going to do is we're going to go over some housekeeping items. Then Diego's going to give us an introduction to Ozobot and the 2 ways to code demo. I will talk about our remote friendly lessons for any of you that are in remote or hybrid settings. And then we'll have our Q&A and then our giveaway. So just a couple of housekeeping items. Your camera and your mic are turned off automatically as an attendee. We'd love for you to join in the conversation. You can use the Q&A feature in Zoom to ask any questions that we will answer during the Q&A time, or you can pop them in the chat. We have Cassandra and Heather monitoring the chat, and they will be able to get back to you with any responses if we can answer them before Q&A. Again, remember to select all panelists and attendees in that to field so everyone can see your message. And if you are interested in a recording of this webinar, if you've opted in for updates on ozobot.com, you'll get an email sent to you with the recording. Otherwise, you can find them on our YouTube channel and our webinar page. Our last housekeeping item, or actually our second to last housekeeping item, is our giveaway. We are giving away an educator entry kit today. So if you go to ozo.bot/giveaway, put in your name and email address, and we will pick a winner at the end. Please only enter once. If you enter multiple times, you will be disqualified. And we will close the giveaway sign up in about 17 minutes at 20 past the hour. And our last housekeeping items is our poll questions. We would just love to know more about who is in our audience. If you are familiar with Ozobot or if you're brand new, if you could take a moment to answer that poll question. I'll give everyone about 30 seconds. All right, it looks like some people have just gotten Ozobots and they're looking for more ways to use it. Others are not as familiar with Ozobots, which is absolutely okay. We have a lot to share with you today, and you'll be able to get something very useful out of today's session. We'd also like to know what grade level everyone is teaching, so feel free to spend about 30 seconds filling that in. About 5 seconds left. Okay, and it looks like we have everyone from kindergarten through 8th grade and college educator. It's exciting. And our last question is, what subjects are you most interested in or that you actively teach now? All right, great. And it looks like most of us are technology engineering teachers with some interest in science and art. That's really great to know and helpful for us to know who's in the audience and what you're looking for. Um, Great. With that, we're going to move on to our introduction to Ozobots. Diego, would you like to share your screen, or would you like me to click through the slides as you're speaking?
It's okay if you click through. I think it's make it a little easier. So thank you, Melissa. Introduction to Ozobot. First thing we like to take care of, get out of the way, is address why robotics. Why robotics are important. We found that there's at least 4 benefits of robotics education, starting with number 1 here, that robots are a great vehicle for delivering computer science education, a space that Melissa knows a lot about. But according to a well-known Gallup poll, 9 out of 10 parents want their kids to learn CS in school. I saw here in the chat that there's a retired teacher teaching her grandson some of these concepts. So there's the proof right there. The second point here is that robots make computer science hands-on. They allow for real-world applications of learning and can also teach STEAM, not just STEM, in an era when kids and teens can spend up to 8 hours a day consuming content on screens. Hands-on learning is a great way to increase engagement, and it can even boost retention to up to 75%, according to several studies that we found. The third point is that robots make it easy to teach future-ready skills, not just computer science and digital literacy, but skills like creativity, critical thinking, collaboration, communication. And according to the World Economic Forum, the majority of today's elementary students will go on to have jobs that don't even exist yet. So instilling future-ready skills ensures that they'll be able to adapt to whatever that future brings. And lastly, something very special or very important, especially in today's climate, is the social and emotional well-being of our littles or our students. The pure excitement of working with a robot, especially one like ours, that fits in the palm of your hand, really impacts students, their social and emotional well-being. This is it's hard to quantify, but really extremely important. And we feel that one of our certified educators put it best when she said, "When I place a robot in front of a learner, what I see is faces of joy." So that's why we believe robotics are important. So if you can go to the next slide, Melissa. So what is Ozobot? We're a robotic platform that makes it simple to teach coding and STEAM and integrate coding and STEAM into all subjects. We're already trusted in over 30,000 K-12 schools. And in one of our latest polls, over 95% of our users report that our robots and our platform increase their students' engagement. We've been around since 2014. And throughout that time, we won some awards like the Edison Award and an award at ISTE for Best of ISTE beginning of last year. So next slide, we'll go into a little bit of how it works. Our robots are desk friendly. They're 1-inch robots that make learning hands-on and increase student engagement. So our bots are also Bluetooth enabled with a programmable motor, a color sensor, proximity sensors, and even an internal speaker, all packed in a small package. With that robot and our 2 ways to code, students can code Ozobots screen-free with colored markers and on screens with Ozoblockly visual programming. This really makes our platform very flexible and to span not only all grade levels, but all subject areas as well. As a matter of fact, 74% of our users they teach core subjects like math, ELA, and science with coding and computer science integrated into it. This is a very great interdisciplinary tool. And with our platform, teachers get access to over 500 lessons via Ozobot Classroom, our software platform where any educator can explore and assign lessons. And because our bots connect to our software via Bluetooth, teachers can track their students' progress when students work with or without screens. And we launched this platform in January 2020. So since then, it's grown a lot and already has 58,000 unique teachers and students use it. So next, I'm going to place Melissa on the role of our student to go into a little bit of an activity that we created here to show you our 2 ways to code.
And for those of you in the audience, I recommend going full screen so that you can see Diego as the main speaker. You can do that by going to the top corner of your Zoom screen, clicking on view, selecting speaker and full screen, as he's going to be showing us the bot and some other really cool things as well.
Great, so let me switch to my overhead camera. Okay. So let's start with our patented color code language. This allows students to start coding completely screen-free by drawing lines and sequences of color. This allows them to build creative confidence, teach basic coding concepts like cause and effect and debugging. And our goal with this activity that you see on the overhead camera is to use color codes to get Evo, our robot, from start to one of these STEAM subject bubbles here on the right-hand side. So I'm going to ask Melissa to pick one of the STEAM subjects for me.
Let's go to art.
Great. So art is right here. And what we have is this pre-printed activity sheet with these lines on it. And up here in the top left, we have a color code bank. So the color codes are these sequences of color that you see here. And maybe it's hard to see, so I'll get a little bit closer. They will tell the robot which direction to go. You can see it can go straight, left, or right. And that's because we need to tell it where to go at these intersections. The baseline function of our robots, by turning it on, not connected to any outside technology, is a line following robot. So you'll see it go down the line. But what happens when it gets to intersections like this one here, when it has a choice to go 3 different ways, is that it will randomly select where to go unless we tell it which direction to go by placing one of those color codes before the intersection. So if you're going to get to art, we have to solve for 2 intersections. This first one here, and then this one here. So on the first one, we want the robot to actually go straight down the line instead of making a left-hand turn here. And there's a color code for that, which is this one here to make it go straight. So with our markers, which are not special ink or anything, is just the robot sensors on the bottom that read colors. Once we place a color code before the intersection, it will the robot will interpret it as a command to go straight at that intersection. So let me place that color code in now. And it's just as easy as filling in this these blank spaces here on the sheet, but these color codes can also be drawn freehand as well. So now the robot will go straight down the line. Now we have to solve for this intersection. We don't want it to go straight again because that will get us to math. We want it to go up to the left to actually end up in the art bubble. And of course, there's a color code for that. And that one is a sequence of color that I'll enter here. And with that, just with markers on a piece of paper, we programmed our robot to get exactly where we want it to go. So there's an entire language of color codes that students can learn. But obviously for this one, we only chose the directional codes. There's about close to 30 other ones that you can explore. But for this small activity, you see how it works with these. So the next activity will involve our second way to code, just called Ozobot. So let me actually share my screen for that. So Ozobot is our device agnostic visual programming editor. It's powered by Google Blockly, but we added discrete levels of difficulty, if you will, starting with level 1 up here in the top left for pre-reader. This one's great for the littles because all these blocks are just picture-based. So you don't have to wait for students to get to a certain grade to start instilling some coding and programming skills. You can start as early as you get them in the classroom. And then it goes all the way to master level that has more advanced programming principles that are great for high school computer science classes, and intro to computer science courses. These are things like logic, conditional statements, functions, arrays, and lists. So this again shows a lot of flexibility in how you can use our platform. In this specific example that I said here, will help us solve this activity sheet that I have here. And again, I'm going to ask Melissa to choose a STEAM subject to get to. If you want to choose art again, we can do it.
Let's mix it up and go to technology this time.
Great, technology. So technology is here, and you'll see that this activity sheet now no longer has all the lines as before. We has this initial line, but in the middle here, it's completely blank space. Might be hard to see, but it's actually broken up into 30 millimeter, a grid of 30 millimeter increments. So 30, 60, 90, 30, 60, 90, and 120 millimeters. We measure in millimeters because our robots are small, but this is also to illustrate how Blockly doesn't necessarily require lines and color codes to work. So let me switch over again to my Ozobot screen to make a couple edits to this sample code that we have here in the editing screen. Ozobot is like a paragraph. From top to bottom, all these commands will happen in order, starting with setting the top LED color to red, just so you can see it engaged. To make it really easy, we're gonna make an edit here in this block to help the robot get to the technology bubble, which is 90 millimeters up the page. So this again shows you that these blocks are editable. There's different ways to get to the right answer. And then these last few blocks are just fun and to show you the internal speakers of the robot. They can actually play kind of robot emotion sounds and also even musical notes, which adds the A to STEAM for the arts in a very technology-based way. So we can definitely add, let's change it to a different musical note here. Then it's going to do some disco lights at the very end. Now, the way that this works, since our robots are Bluetooth enabled, I'm going to turn it on. And here on the right-hand side is where you can connect to the robot via Bluetooth. And this is, again, a web-based editor that you can reach from any web browser. And to connect it, you power on your robot and connect it like you would a Bluetooth device. Paired to it. Now that my robot's connected, I'll place it at the start of my activity sheet here. And you'll see that as soon as I press run program, the robot will start doing these commands in order. So I'll do that and switch out of this view so you can see it on your screens. Great, so that's our 2 ways to code in a nutshell. if we can go back to our deck, Melissa. Okay, so those 2 ways to code basically give us a lot of flexibility. Those 2 ways to codes have driven our adoption in education up to this point, and has led to the flexibility of our platform. Between color codes for younger students or anyone new to coding, and the discrete levels in Ozobot, we can span from K to 12th. As far as the subjects covered, 74% of our users use our platform to teach core subjects. So they're not just teaching coding and computer science, they're integrating those concepts into other subject areas, specifically right now, math, ELA, and science, those core subjects that we really need to address and remediate, especially because of the learning loss experienced during the pandemic. And it also lends itself to all learning styles, from behavioral issues, special needs, and this particular study that we are addressing here, students on the autism spectrum. So instruction can be for in-person or remote. So next, Melissa is going to talk to you about a remote-friendly Learn Anywhere lessons to show you both the ability to integrate into content areas and our flexibility of instruction.
Yes, thank you, Diego. So before I jump into the lesson content and what's included, I do want to point out that you can find all of the materials I am just going to cover at Ozobot Classroom, where you can sign up at classroom.ozobot.com. The sign up is completely free. Once you get logged in and you go to lessons, you have access to our full lesson library. And our lesson library is composed of content that we've created in-house, along with lessons that are submitted by educators around the world. And the content I'm going to be covering is our Learn Anywhere remote-friendly content. So you can see that some of our lessons have this remote-friendly icon, and some do not. So for example, this layers of soil with Ozobot, this was submitted by one of our certified educators, and it does not have the video content or the extra content that I'm going to go over and show you. She does have a really, really great lesson here that you're welcome to print and use, but it won't have the instructional video aspect. So that's just something I wanted to point out. You can also use the remote-friendly filter here to find all of our remote-friendly content. We are constantly releasing new content. Right now in our lesson library, we have color codes lessons, but we are releasing Ozobot lessons very soon. So keep your eyes peeled for that. Our content is, right now we're developing content for 2nd through 8th grade, and you can find those grades in our lesson library. Our recommended pacing is 1 lesson per week, and these lessons are about 45-minute activities, just depending on the grade level. And middle school is a little bit longer. Elementary school is on the shorter side, just thinking about developmentally appropriateness of what students can do, especially if they're in remote settings by themselves, guiding their own learning. All of our lessons are standards aligned to one ISTE at least one ISTE standard, one CSTA standard, and one content standard, which would be NGSS or Common Core ELA or math. All of the lessons, again, the content is absolutely free. Everything comes with a synchronous lesson plan. If you're in person with your students and you're confident teaching computer science, we have a traditional lesson plan for you. If you're somebody who has just gotten started, maybe you're unfamiliar with Ozobots, maybe you've never taught computer science before, we have instructional videos for you where we walk students step by step through the entire lesson so that they can be successful independently. It is a student-facing video, and they are able to, they should be able to accomplish the lesson independently on their own. There is also a student activity guide, and then all of the activity sheets and any potential solutions or answer keys for you as the teacher are provided as well. And again, you can find those in our lesson library. This is just example of what the contents look like in the lesson. You can see here we have the full lesson plan. This is what the video looks like, the activity sheets, and then the answer key for you. So it's all there in a package for you. What I'm going to do is I'm going to dive into some of examples of the content integration. So in 5th grade, this is a math lesson. We have ELA math and science and STEAM lessons for all the grade levels in 2nd through 5th grade. And the middle school, we have some content areas, and we're looking to fill more content areas here soon. But for the math lesson in 5th grade, students are learning all about place value and number forms. So they're using the bot as an engagement tool. The bot would be put down here at the start, and we know that Ozobot will make random decisions at intersections. So students can choose to put fun behavioral color codes here just to make things a little bit more exciting. They can also make things more challenging and scaffold the content for themselves by putting a fast or a slow color code or turbo to see how quickly the bot will travel to a number. It's kind of up to them how they want to execute the lesson and what color codes they want to put in. The bot will randomly travel to one of the digits in the map. And for each digit, the students will record each of those digits in their worksheet. So for example, if the first number the bot goes to is 4, they would write 4 in the hundreds place. If the number is, if the bot goes to 7 next, the next number they'd record is 7. The next number, if it was 3, if the bot traveled all the way to 3, then they would write 3 in the ones place, and so on and so forth. So then they would create the number 473 and 258,000 and write that in standard form, word form, and expanded form. So there's a lot of math content integration there for you. It looks like, sorry, one second, not sure what, here we go. Let me pause really quickly. I do want to show you a piece of the video just so you can get an idea of what the look and feel of the videos are like, so that you know what it's like to be a student. So let me play this video. Ozobot is ready to make a 6-digit number. Are you? We'll place our bot on start. Then we'll watch as it follows the pathway until it gets to a digit. Once it reaches a digit, we will write this digit in the hundreds place under standard form. My bot made it to the number 1. In the first place here, I will write 1. Then we'll repeat this 5 times to program Ozobot to move from start to complete my decimal number. My second number is 0. My third number is 9. Since it's truly random, your bot might choose the same number multiple times. How many digits or places will your number have when you are done? So you can see that our videos are very manageable. They're bite-sized. They're meant to be self-guided by students. This is just one little piece of the complete video that walks the students through. So we take them step by step so that they can self-pace, self-guide, and be successful. If you're a teacher that's a little bit more nervous about implementing computer science, you can use this video to help your instruction. You can play the video, pause it where you'd like, have students follow along, or watch it beforehand and then try to model what is going on in the video as well. Let me move on to the next slide here. And so there are more examples of the videos. Let me see, there's something going on with my slide deck here. Sorry about that. This is an example of an ELA lesson. So again, we're using the bot as an engagement tool and to not only code in this lesson, they'll code it, but they're also using that randomization feature of the bot to engage them in a prefix activity. Now, I don't know about you all in your classrooms, but if I tried to teach prefixes, I don't know that I'd get a whole lot of excitement. But if I brought out Ozobots to teach prefixes, I know that my students might be a little bit more motivated to engage and participate in learning all about prefixes. So in this lesson, what the students do is they actually code the bot in these code blanks here to actually use a line switch code. And what the line switch code does is when the bot travels down it, it goes past the black line, past the white area, and looks for a new line to follow. Once it passes over this area, it actually will randomly make a turn. So what students are tasked to do is they place the bot on start. It'll randomly choose which prefix to travel down, which arm of this this little map here. And let's say it travels down this one, they would then write down dis, and then the bot would travel all the way over, and maybe it travels down to the word do, dis do. They would write that down and write down what it makes, dis do. Is that a real word? They would check no, and then if not, they would use the word with a different prefix. So instead of disdo, they would choose undo and then define what the word means. Here's a quick example, if the video will load, please. Let's place Ozobot on start on the prefix chooser, and it will randomly turn down one of the prefix rows. My Ozobot chose the prefix pre. The Ozobot jumped across the empty space because of the line switch code and headed over to the root word chooser. My Ozobot chose the root word able. On my prefix activity sheet, I will write pre plus able. When I put these two words together, I get the word pre-able. I'll write that on the next line after the equal sign. Can you place your bot on start and choose a prefix and a root word? So again, that's another example of one of the chapters in our videos. Very bite-sized, very straightforward. Students can follow along and guide their own learning. See what's going on here. So some of the STEAM and SEL lessons that we have as well. This is our Thanksgiving gratitude party lesson that was designed for Thanksgiving, but we classified it as a SEL lesson so that you could use it at any time during the year. We don't mention Thanksgiving necessarily, but we did want to give students an opportunity to reflect on what they were thankful for and what they were grateful for. And so what the students do in this lesson is they reflect on that, they write a couple of pieces, they get to build these what are called nets and decorate them, and then have their Ozobot travel from start all the way to their gratitude party. So it's a really creative way to incorporate social emotional learning and STEAM into one fun lesson. Let me show you how this lesson works. Ozobot is ready to head to the gratitude party. Before you put your bot on start, make sure all your color codes are filled in. I'm going to use black marker to not give away any of the answers, but you will have color codes. Also, don't forget that your bot will want to do a bit of dancing when it gets to the party, so fill in green then blue so that your bot can do a dance when it gets to the party. Power on and place Ozobot at start. Can you dance with your Ozobot? And last but not least, we are also creating Ozoblockly lessons for not just middle school. This is an example of the series of lessons and what the content will be covering in middle school, what that looks like. But we are releasing Ozoblockly content for middle school and elementary school that will have that video support as well. So if you're familiar with color codes, but you're a little Ozoblockly is a little bit daunting for you, this is a perfect place to start. We'll cover all the basic concepts on about how to use Ozoblockly and all the basic coding concepts as well. We've used the CSTA standards to help guide our content that we're covering. So based on the CSTA standards, that will guide what grade levels are doing which computer science concepts and skills and what they're going to be covering. And then in addition, we have our holiday and seasonal lessons. So we have been releasing our holiday lessons as they have been coming up, but we will be releasing more throughout the year as well. So those are really, really fun and really popular with the kids, especially if you have a day to expose them to some of these celebrations that they may not necessarily otherwise know about. We are very intentional about accessibility for students. All of these videos have chaptered videos for self-pacing and self-guiding. If you are a Google Classroom teacher and you use Google Classroom, your students will have integration into Google Classroom where you can use Ozobot Classroom to assign lessons. Students will get an email when they click it and open up their assignment. They'll go through to their dashboard and it looks like this. They'll have the video playlist to follow along. And then you'll notice here that they can pause, they can play. There's auditory and visual guidance in the video, but also for any students who cannot necessarily access the audio, they can have the written instructions below guide them as well. In addition, we're attempting to address that tech gap by giving students and teachers the opportunity to integrate STEAM with their core content areas so that all students can participate in computer science. These are for any skill and any grade level, and we also have supports for students with visual color vision deficiency. And I'm going to pass it over to Diego to discuss our one-to-one hybrid program. Or actually, I think I saw a couple questions specifically about the lessons. I think one person asked if these were only Evo compatible. The Learn Anywhere lessons that I just covered and I will say the Learn Anywhere lessons in the lesson library, we have marked them Evo compatible because if you are interested in using, let me see if I can go back to it. If you're interested in using that Google Classroom integration, for where students can get assigned and their bots can be linked to their computers, that does require the Evo Bluetooth capabilities. But if you're printing the worksheets though and just teaching it on your own, that's absolutely bit compatible. Those worksheets are designed to work for both. So if you have bits, you're more than welcome to use those worksheets in your classroom. I also saw another question about what age do you start Blockly with? Blockly has 5 different levels, starting all the way from pre-reader all the way to advanced. That advanced level is quite sophisticated. We have our engineers on our team building things in Blockly, so that's like a professional level that students can also use as well. Our pre-reader level, we've seen students in pre-K and kindergarten use the pre-reader level. Let me show it to you. Actually, I think I have it in Ozobot Classroom here. All of the blocks, so you can see here we have levels 1 through 5. In level 2, we have text where you have to know how to read, but with some icons to give visual cues. But in level 1, there's no reading involved. So students as young as pre-K and kindergarten are able to use Ozoblockly for block-based coding. So that's a great question. Cassandra or Heather, were there any other questions about the content that came up as I was going through it?
I think that's it, but feel
Okay,
free if I miss something to pop it in the Q&A so we can get to it before we end the webinar.
great. And now I'll pop it over to Diego.
Great, thank you. Yes. So if you are interested in our hybrid program to take advantage of those Learn Anywhere lessons, we created this program to help you take advantage of the features and content that we covered today. So basically what it entails is each student getting their own robot to use, not only in person, but in those blended learning and remote learning environments. As the educator, you get access to all those remote friendly lessons, training, and PD as part of the program. And basically schools get to integrate coding and STEAM into all subjects for all students. So everything that we showed you, but packaged in a way for students to use it in any learning environment. For example, I know of a lot of districts that, not only are just getting back to an in-person kind of blended hybrid model now, but will still continue to offer a remote option as part of their regular offerings, just because there's some students that thrive in those environments. Obviously there's some that don't and are better served with an in-person model, but this program really allows for that flexibility. So it gives you access to not only everything you saw today, but to this new packaging for our product. So if you don't mind, if I do my overhead screen, Melissa, I want to show them the at least the packaging that comes with this program. So it's basically a student care package that has in it everything the students will need for instruction, obviously including the robot, set of markers, a charging cable, and some activity sheets and documentation. But this protective case that allows it to basically travel with them. You can toss this in the backpack for when they have to go in blended learning, for 2 days on, 2 days off. When they go home, they don't have to miss out on the engaging hands-on education that Ozobot provides. They can take this with them. But more importantly, even for in-person, since they're going to have to work, students will have to work in their individual pods with materials that they're not necessarily going to share with other students during that time. This allows you to have all their tools for the Ozobot platform in one place for them to just keep neatly in their working environments. So that's how we, together with our educators, we can really redefine the roles of robotics in school from something, not just for STEM labs or supplemental programs, but also for core curriculum accessible to all students and from basically wherever they're learning. So if you have any questions about that, if you throw up the slide again, Melissa, there's just our website at the bottom where you can request more information, including a demo and a quote for our programs.
Wonderful. Thank you, Diego. We have a question in Q&A asking, does the software work with Chromebooks? Could you speak to that, Diego?
Absolutely, yes. We made sure that our software and our platform works with Chromebooks, mainly because it's one of the technology devices that's mostly used or most widely used in school today. But it can also work on certain PCs and, for example, Mac computers, as long as running the Chrome browser. But yes, we made sure it works with Chromebooks.
Great. Do we have any other questions in the chats? Let me just take a quick look. Oh, there's a question about if they will work with iPad.
With iPad, yes, we have compatibility with iPad, but it would require its compatibility with Ozobot, classroom at the moment, we are still working on full compatibility with iPad, but with the other devices, it'll definitely work with no problems.
And I just want to point out, to add to what Diego said, that the schools that are using iPad, these lessons, they have more of like an offline direct instruction option that doesn't necessarily have to go through Classroom. So some people are doing it that way, where they just email the students the video rather than assigning it through Classroom.
Right, that's a great point, Cassandra. It doesn't mean that it doesn't, the integration might not work as seamlessly, but there's obviously workarounds. We really focus on making it as flexible as possible. So even in our devices section in Ozobot Classroom, there's a tab that shows you how to set it up with iPads. And in our help section, we have videos showing you how you can work in those environments as well. But yeah, that's a great question and great clarification.
Mary has a question. Is it possible to purchase an empty case since she already has the Evo markers and etc.?
As far as I know, I don't think we have that as a standalone product at the moment.
Okay,
yeah.
Great. And then Lori is asking how much the kit is and what the minimum order is.
Great question. So the minimum order is 30, just kind of like the regular average classroom size. And each one is 125. So total would be around 3,800. But that gets you basically a classroom set to use for your classes.
Great. I think those were all the questions that came through Q&A. But if you have any more questions for us, feel free to type them in the chat or pop them into Q&A while we move on to our giveaway. We are going to ask our winner to email Cassandra@ozobot.com to claim their prize. And I'm going to pull up our survey responses. And Diego, since you are such a wonderful host today, would you pick a number 2 through 10? And for those of you in the audience, your responses have gone into Google spreadsheet. So we are Diego's randomly choosing this number. He didn't know that I was going to ask him, and that number corresponds with your entry, and we'll determine a winner that way.
Yeah, so don't get mad at me. I'll go with lucky number 7.
Number 7 is Jacqueline Marlene. Congratulations, Jacqueline. Wonderful. Jacqueline, if you could email Cassandra@ozobot.com to claim your prize, we can get that educator entry kit to you. All right. And I believe Cassandra answered in the chat, but Lori and Mary were asking about individual pricing for homeschoolers, but we do have Ozobot for home and homeschool products in our Shopify shop online. So feel free to check those out if you are in a homeschool setting. Yeah, wonderful. All right, any last words, Diego?
No, just really happy to have been able to show you what we've been working on, and hopefully you'll see the how it can benefit any student, any learning situation, or flexibility, and hopefully you guys can implement it in your classes soon, in person, remotely, or blended, whatever you guys got.
Oh, it looks like one more question came through. Do we have any grant resources that we could share?
Yes, we actually, on our website, you can download our grant and funding tool for free that has information about not only grants, but also that federal funding coming down to help solve for learning loss, to help get back into in-person learning as safely as possible. And that tool has information of where to find resources and also language on how you can write these grants and what language to use to fund our programs.
I can try to grab the link real quick before you guys end the webinar.
Thanks.
Wonderful. Great. With that, we'll leave that chat open so that Cassandra can pop that link into the chat for anyone who is interested, or actually it looks like Crystal did. Thank you, Crystal. But thank you from all of us here at Ozobot. We know that times are really hard right now, especially as educators, and that you are doing everything you can to ensure that your students get what they need. We hope everyone stays safe and healthy out there. And thanks for taking the time to join us. Please don't hesitate to reach out to us if any questions come up or if we can be of any help. Have a wonderful evening, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.